overall quality. I also wish to thank analytical rigor, profound specialization of in history. My doctoral studies at the University of Bristol, mentor, colleague, and a friend who encouraged me to integrate my DSL in this hour. EBBCIS and the staff whose commitment
We are the Bandara National Memorial Foundation.
on many years of teaching, research notes, and scholarly discussion. Support and contribution, often behind the scene, have been Ms. Shani Jawardhan for her professionalism, dedication, and keen interest.
Dharmini Keeravella, Chair of the BNMF, Her Excellency Chandrika Bandaranayake Kumaratunga, Excellencies, distinguished academics, scholars, and guests. It is a pleasure to participate in the launch of Reimagining International Relations from a Global South Perspective, authored by Professor Keeravella. I thank you for your dedication to this discipline and for your commitment to publishing quality material. This is something that is there's a huge need for this kind of work, and I thank you for spending your retirement so productively and sharing your knowledge with us. This volume represents a timely and rigorous intellectual contribution, one that engages the discipline of international relations while offering many insights into policy, diplomacy, and global governance. This book, I must confess that I didn't read it cover to cover, but I did read sections of it. And the main purpose of this book appears to be a very successful attempt to trace the evolution of the discipline of international relations, particularly offering us perspective on the way in which this discipline has expanded when you situate it within an understanding of the global inequalities, especially in the field of power, knowledge, and the production of knowledge through history. I think this is a timely intervention because this is not something that is limited to the field of international relations, but all of us pursuing these academic disciplines understand how knowledge has been constructed, how knowledge has been positioned in certain ways within this context. This understanding of the way in which knowledge is produced and the power inequality that lies at the base of the way in which particular types of knowledge is given precedence or not, or dominant, is something that goes far back as the 1970s with Edward Said's path-breaking work, Orientalism, where he showed how dominant understandings, particularly of our part of the world, shaped the way in which we ourselves understood how we understood our societies and our context. What interests me, however, is that this approach, this perspective, even though it's something that has a long history, for many decades we've been talking about this, about the inequalities in the way in which knowledge is produced and what that means in terms of the way disciplines have evolved through time. the need to keep reiterating this, I think, is what is most interesting, because even though we all know this, if we look at the way in which disciplines are taught, even today, we seem to still pursue a very determinantly kind of positivist approach to understanding the production of knowledge, and particularly be very indebted to Eurocentric ways of understanding how the world works. Professor Kierawala in this book argues that the global south, when it comes to international relations and diplomacy and so on and so forth, is not merely reactive, but produces a distinct moral and cultural imagination. He calls for what he refers to as epistemic pluralism in understanding how the global south global south's international relations and international policy has evolved, and traces the many different pathways through which a counter understanding of international relations has also evolved through different strands of thinking. He provides insights into how this discipline has evolved through time, but also, importantly, deconstructs Eurocentric assumptions about international diplomacy, human security, sovereignty, self-determination, and key concepts within this discipline. I also found his repositioning of the international security studies particularly useful in our given context, where the focus has shifted from the security of the state to thinking more about human and planetary survival. I think particularly pertinent in this moment of climate change and changes that are taking place in our environment, where planetary survival is much more than just a simple survival of the state or the security of the state. He describes experiences of the global south in making this case about the need, the continuing pressing need to engage with these different strands of thinking and different perspectives. Again, this becomes particularly pertinent given, I think, globally this current understanding of the world as particularly unstable and unpredictable, as if this instability and unpredictability is a new thing. I think for those of us who've lived in the global south, this is not new at all. This is always how the world has been for us. It has instability and unpredictability is our life experience, is our lived reality. And now that things are shifting elsewhere, suddenly the idea of instability and unpredictability is becoming something, and as if this is something new and something that we have to now start dealing with. Professor Kierawala also, I think, points to, in one of his chapters, the challenges facing the rules-based order currently. Again, something that is being discussed quite considerably now, and where the interrogation of international regimes of governance, international governance structures has again caught people's attention. But again, I think a perspective from the global south forces us to ask whether this international regime and a rules-based order, as important as it is and as much as we have subscribed to it, whether that rules-based, who did that rules-based order serve even when we thought that it was functioning well? Whose interests were represented in that rules-based order? So, and this has also often been talked about and discussed, particularly from a cultural relativist point of view, that different cultures offer a different way of thinking about all of this. But I have often found that particular argument can also be extremely limiting if we start thinking of very sort of, culturally specific kinds of ways of addressing international norms or international governance systems. Then offering an argument of cultural specificity can sometimes also be, there's somewhat of a tension between this. How can you also subscribe to an international rules-based order and also say that specific cultures and have specific ways of understanding and therefore cannot, that rules don't apply in the same way to everyone. This argument, I think there's a tension within this discourse as well, necessary, but one that is complex therefore. So Professor Kierawalde invites us therefore to reimagine international relations as a genuinely plural field. I think this doesn't necessarily only go for the discipline of international relations. This is something that applies to almost all disciplines, I would say to all disciplines. He invites us to think of this as a dialogue rather than a sort of a promotion of a single homogeneous point of view. Again, something I think that is relevant to many more disciplines than international relations. But again, I think important points to keep making, important points for us to keep remembering about the need for the multiplicity of perspectives, viewpoints, the need to be constantly reflective of the standpoints we take, and to also understand some of the inherent contradictions between some of these frameworks and assumptions that we ground our work on. So Professor Kierawalde, thank you for this important work. I congratulate you. Your writing style is very readable, I have to say. That's a huge plus point in academic writing. And I think this makes it very accessible to a wide audience. So thank you and congratulations on an important work. And I feel really honored to be here today and to be able to speak a few words on it. Thank you so much.